Hi, and welcome to the Creating, Living, and Making podcast. I'm your host, Anarchy, and as always, I'm joined by Morley
Hey.
and the Grant Alexander.
Hello.
I just realized that I always say the Grant Alexander, but not just... Anyway. So, boys, it's been, a week and a bit since our last episode?
Yeah, at least.
Well, since we recorded our last episode. Only a week for the people. I guess I'm going to go first with what's in my clamps. I kind of took a bit of a week off. Just been busy with work. They put me on day shift. I haven't really had time to do anything. But today or tomorrow, I plan on cleaning my shop. And then I'm going to be filming my shop tour for Sumo. Well, for Sumo's thing that he started to Australian shop tours. And then I've been thinking lately, for a little bit now, I've really been trying to focus on nutrition and getting my health back in order. Pre-COVID, I was doing pretty good, got down to a good weight. I put a bit of weight back on over COVID while the gyms were shut down and stuff, and that has really gotten to me. But I'm thinking of actually going and studying nutrition itself because I've been doing so much research. I've been trying to make my suggestions on YouTube just all fitness and nutrition related. So I've been watching so many videos on all that sort of stuff. But everything's so contradictive that I just want to figure if I go study it and become get the qualification myself, I'm going to have a lot more of an understanding of how it works as opposed to just hearing other people's views.
Yeah.
Maybe. Or you'll find out.
So I'm thinking about doing that.
Oh.
I mean, you could also talk to a nutritionist.
Yeah, but I don't want to spend the money.
Isn't studying it, though, to get the qualification, you'd also have to spend money?
Yeah, but if I study it, I think I'd have a lot. I learn from studying, from doing. Like someone telling me something, I'm not going to learn. I need to actually do it and live it myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good thing to learn more stuff, so I'm not going to go tell you not to do it, but I might tell you that you might find that there's a lot of science that is still contradictory. Mm-hmm. Right? That's all.
100%.
So you may not be you might leave it going, and I know exactly the same amount, right?
So yeah, my sister is a personal trainer and nutritionist. And she talks about this a lot because there is so much contradictory information out there that her approach is kind of focusing on the bigger picture in general. For example, you don't need to worry about cutting out a very specific food if you're getting zero exercise. So first, maybe try to have a more active lifestyle and don't nitpick these very small, trendy fad diets. So that's her strategy is kind of to parse out the noise and focus on the larger changes.
I don't know if nutrition is going to be the thing that I mainly study, but it's going to be involved because it's more of the looking into daily intake and all that sort of stuff. So I worked it out the other day. I was looking at trying to eat 2,500 calories per day. I then worked out and I burnt easily 2,200 calories for the day.
Wow. Because
I did 4 hours of training. So that looking at that, I'm already, and my daily intake for maintenance is 3,900. So if I only ate 2,500 for the day, 3,900 less calories than what I need for the day, because they sort of cancel each other out, the 2,500 and the working out, is way too less. I will actually cause harm to my body by doing that. So I want to look into how I get into that. Maybe nutrition is not the answer, although it's probably part of it. It's the whole thing in general.
Cool.
So
yeah, sounds like fun.
Grant, you can go next.
All right. So my week has also been kind of. I haven't been out in the shop much. I was doing some sharpening of chisels today, but that's about it. And plain irons. I got a new honing gauge, and it's it's game changing on how much sharper I can get stuff.
Can you shave your arm?
I didn't. You know what's funny? I didn't even try, but I bet you I can because I could take end grain shavings now. Ooh. And I went, oh my god, end grain! I could never even get close to that before.
Nice.
So I'm guessing I can.
I remember the first time I sharpened my chisels, and it was life changing.
So the first time I sharpened my chisels, it was life-changing. Having a honing gauge took it to a whole nother level.
Does it make you want to do like more traditional, like Japanese style woodworking, just having them this sharp? Is it like sparking ideas in your head now for things you can do with them?
It's completely like it's something that it's like you don't even need to be Japanese joinery to want to have sharp chisels. Like taking putting in a door, like a doorknob. Like I did one with my very old and busted chisels, and it was just a pain in the butt. But it definitely want, like I actually ordered more chisels on Amazon Prime Day because I wanted a smaller chisel. But it's one of those things that I think it'll be very useful in the future.
Yeah,
to have a nice set of chisels. I also ordered some leather working tools. Someone might have inspired me, and they were on sale. So I'm sure all the really horrible leather working tools that came in the $28 kit aren't going to last that long, but they're going to do better than nothing.
You'll be surprised. I have some cheap tools that have lasted a very, very long time.
Yeah. I'm like, for how much leather work I think I want to get into, I think they're going to be perfect. The big thing is like I want some needles and threads that aren't like I used when I was doing all the patches, like installing all the patches. I was using tapestry needles, and they were not sharp at all. So like if you got like in the wrong spot, it was like impossible to poke through, and they were just. It was just very like difficult to work with versus, I could see other real leather working needles being nicer and having the right thread.
Little insider tip is I actually find myself wanting duller needles than what I have. Because when I'm saddle stitching, sometimes I accidentally pierce the thread and then I have to go back through the hole because it gets stuck before I can pull it all the way through. So I think it's called harness needles are typically very dull and what you'll use for stitching through the big thick pieces of leather. If you're pre-punching the holes, the needle doesn't really need to be very sharp. Except in the back stitch.
You pre-punch the holes.
Yeah, except in the back stitch where you're kind of locking the stitch line in, and then piercing the thread can actually add strength because you're essentially weaving the thread back into itself, and it's not coming out of there.
There are pre-punched holes in the patch in the leather, but they weren't pre-punched holes on the things I'm attaching the leather to.
Right. Yeah. So it's a balance.
Right. Yeah. Right. So like in the little like frame that I made you, that's like a plaid shirt, and it went through the needle like no problem. But onto my my backpack, it was a little bit more of a challenge. It was one of those times I really wished I had a thimble. And the one from Monopoly didn't fit my finger.
Every time I have a really bad, really tough stitching job, I'm like, I really need to get a thimble. And then I never get one, and I totally forget about it.
This kit came with one. So boom, I'm set. I'll lose it, I'm sure.
I'm curious to know how many people played Monopoly growing up that had no idea what a thimble was actually used for.
I don't know. Like
because I know I did until I was older.
Really? My grandmother had them and like did a lot of sewing, so
same.
It was one of those things that I would have known from her when. Anyways, the other thing I've been up to get off the topic of thimbles, because that's a riveting conversation, is I was a guest on 2 podcasts this week. The first, I was a guest on Figuring It Out with Jacob and Steve, and that was a really fun podcast. We actually talked about podcasts, so it was a bit meta, but we talked a little bit about all the research I've been doing on growing podcasts, and we talked about some stuff like marketing and how their titles and like idea is way easier to market versus ours, which is way more fun. So I went, I'm going for fun. That's the goal, is fun here. That's why we have clamp on every single title, or squeeze or something like that. It makes it so that it's not searchable at all, but it's fun. Mm-hmm. And then the second podcast I was on was Justin's, The Garage Avenger, his Make Ideas Reality. And that was a really great conversation I had with him. About basically, when to say no or saying no, kind of, and build versus make. Or buy versus make. Sorry, build versus make. Buy versus make. And it was a great conversation to have with him because he has a very different approach in that aspect.
That's cool. I'm excited to listen to that.
Speaking of the Garage Avenger, before he was on Because We Make, that was the last thing I had was I could be the first Aussie on their show. And then he came on. Although, I don't know if you can call... I mean, he was born here, but I mean...
No, he lived there for a long time.
He's from Norway.
Like, he only recently moved to Norway. You can be the first...
He doesn't live here anymore, so I can be the first one that lives in Australia.
Right. The first one where they record it from Australia with all the janky internet that is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Which you just froze, and I'm not joking.
For sure.
While Adam figures out whether or not his internet is working, the other thing is I got a new computer. So in the last episode, we were talking about how I was editing video, the camping video, and we put that out. But in the day after we recorded the podcast, I went out and bought a new computer. It's an Asus TUF something, I don't know. Anyways, it's got lots of things that end in gigabytes and megahertz. Lots of different specs. And not as many specs as I really need, but way more than I used to have. And wow, it is amazing. I can actually watch the video while doing the edit, which before I had to render every single time I wanted to watch the video. So it's been amazing, and I didn't realize it could be that much better. So it's
awesome.
It's, I think, going to be a game changer.
Yeah, my new laptop, the same thing. It was such a big difference. Although I use DaVinci Resolve, which if you don't pay for it, when you render, it's slower than what it should be. Sort of like gives like trying to get you to pay for it, but like I'm not going to pay for it. Even with that though, it's like 100 times faster than my old laptop.
Same with me. Like it went from like I used to press the button and walk away because I could not do anything with my computer. And now I press the button. It still takes a little bit of time, but I can still do things on my computer, which is the amazing part. I can still open up like a browser and go to a website, and my computer doesn't say, "Sorry, that'll be 5 minutes before Chrome opens." Which, by the way, I've switched to Firefox because screw Chrome. It just kept crashing.
Good,
nice security.
I finally worked out how to So I optimize all my media when I edit. That way when I'm editing, it's a lot smoother and stuff, especially when you add titles and all that sort of stuff. It seems to have a bit of a buffer. And I finally worked out how to do it onto a hard drive instead of onto the computer, because 100 gigabytes of footage optimized on the computer ended up being like 300 gigabytes. So with that plus the optimized, it was like 400 gig, and I only have 512 is my SSD in the actual computer. I'm like, I have no room to render. That's the word, render, because every time I render a video, a 10-minute video for me to render is over 100 gig because I'm in 4K.
Wow.
It's insane. Yeah. But yeah, what about you, Morley? What have you been doing this week?
Well, this week I finished up that custom notebook cover I've been working on. I was really happy with it, and I had like so much fun making the video. And I think a big part of that was this little desktop or this little mini tripod that I got actually for me and Grant's camping trip. And it is so nice for getting leather crafting angles. I just abandoned overhead shots altogether for this video, and it's a lot more from the side or down low or kind of over my shoulder sort of shots. And I could tell as I was filming, I was like, ooh, this is going to be a nice video. So I was like kind of going all out on the edit the last few days. That was most of my day today, was finishing up the edit, and that will get posted on Saturday. So by the time this episode comes out, it will be live.
interesting thing is I find Instagram videos from like a single point up top shots seem to do better than YouTube videos of the same. Like Instagram, you seem to be able to like make a viral-ish video from a shot that wouldn't work at all in YouTube. I find it very like interesting to me. Like people just opening up silicone molds or putting finish on do awesome on Instagram, and every single time I do analytics review of my YouTube, when I start putting finish on, people jump ahead. And I go, but that's the part that blows up on Instagram. I'm so confused.
Because people love the beauty. What do you have many different lenses for your camera?
No, I only use the stock lens that came with it, which is
15 or 18, 35, 55 or something.
I don't know off the top of my head. It is the stock lens that comes with the G85, but it's pretty perfect for working like within a workshop. I can get really nice macro shots. I'm not a huge photography buff. I'm incredibly knowledgeable, but it suits my needs very nicely.
Yeah. Well, I've only got two. I've got like the one that came with it, and then I've got a wide angle as well, just so I can get more of the shot. But I was just curious, like with those down low shots, if you zoom in like really close on the leather work, it would be such a nice shot to like actually see the leather peeling away and stuff.
Oh yeah, we got those.
Yeah,
you'll see.
Yeah.
So like kind of knowing as I was making it that I was like, oh, this is going to be a really good video. I spent like a lot of time obsessing over the thumbnail on this. And it was funny, like the day I was taking all the pictures for the thumbnail, I woke up at like 3 a.m. that day. I just like couldn't sleep. A lot of things were going through my head and I just kind of woke up at 3 and just started working. So I was like sleep deprived, doing all these shots and going back and forth from my workbench to the computer. And I got something that I was pretty happy with, but I don't know if you guys do this. Each morning that I started editing, I would open up the thumbnail to kind of see it with fresh eyes and be like, what do I think of this? And every time I looked at it, I was like, this is pretty good, but I don't think it is good enough for how good this video is. So finally this morning, like me and Eden looked through the pictures and we found one that I was like, and I kind of explained to her like why I didn't love the one before, which previously looked kind of like the best of the set. And we decided on one that I was really happy with. So now I'm like, I have this nice like peace of mind that I feel like I'm making this good video and I have a thumbnail that will get as many people to see it as I can hope for. Like, you know, like with the thing with YouTube is like, you can make this great video, but if no one clicks on it, then no one will see it. But now I feel like I've done it justice and I can put it out and be satisfied with that.
I can say that I don't do that and open it the next day because I usually do a thumbnail like 5 minutes before the video goes live. So what you see is what you get.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on thumbnails and every video is more and more time.
So I spend a lot of time, like I do, sometimes it's the 5 minutes before, but that's often, I say to myself, I'll do the 5 minutes before and then 3 hours later, I'm finally pressing the publish button. But, the thumbnail, what I do is I make a whole bunch of them and I keep changing them until I find the one that I'm happy with. But I'll release a video with something that's a little bit different. Or maybe it's the best one that I think is the best at the time. And then the next day I'll try and change it to a completely different. Because what I've found is that someone may not click on the one that I thought was the best, but they might click on a different one that shows the project in a less artistic light and more, you know, like straight on kind of thing. So I find like I change my thumbnail like 3 or 4 times during the first week. Unless I see one really doing well, then I don't touch it.
Right.
Or if I'm unlucky in that I didn't have any good shots of a project that I gave to someone, I only had a few shots of. If I didn't get one that I liked, oops. you know,
that makes sense.
Happens.
I have noticed a lot of like bigger YouTubers and that will actually change their thumbnail. Like the amount of videos I've watched and then I come back and I'm like, oh, new video. No way, it's the same one that changed the thumbnail. They do it all the time.
Yep.
So there must be something in that.
The psychology of it is that your YouTube has pushed your video to all the people. And if they didn't click on it that time, YouTube's going to try and push it to them again the next day. So if you change the thumbnail within the first 24 hours, when they go and log on again and they see it, they might be more entitled. They might have saw the first thumbnail and go, I'm not interested in that. Saw the second thumbnail and gone, I am interested in that. Now I understand what it is. Click. Right. So and then the secondary thing is sometimes it gets people to click twice.
Yeah. I mean, just not to dive down this rabbit hole, but I'm so like on to the next one philosophy with like, as I'm finishing a video, I'm like starting the next one that I have changed them a couple of times, but most of the time it's like what you see is what you're going to get. I'll change the title, but the thumbnail's not really going to switch very much.
Interesting. I literally went through
once the video's up, that's it for me. I'm on to the next one.
I went through my entire catalog and changed all of the thumbnails at one point. Every single one got new text on the screen and new, like it just, I don't like the aesthetic of my channel. I went through and changed them all.
Damn son.
Yeah.
Anyways, other than that this week, I was back working for the scenery shop. So it must have been about 6 episodes now. I talked about going to, we were building the set for Top Chef. So we had built the set previously for Top Chef Canada. And then every season they filmed, we would put it up and take it down, do all the touch-ups and everything. So they filmed the season in, 6-7 weeks, and we took it down. So it was just like a couple of days of pretty manual labor, just kind of tearing stuff down, loading it into trucks, a lot of Tetris and that sort of thing. If I sound like kind of melancholy right now, it's because I am. I'm kind of at an interesting point right now where the interesting thing is, like, for the shop that I've worked for so far, I haven't, even by their standards, I haven't worked on very interesting projects. They've all been like a lot of flats, and like they do like crazy stuff, like build the entranceway for Big Brother or Dragon's Den, all the CNC sort of stuff, like very interesting stuff. But the projects I've worked on so far just haven't been that. But at the same time, I'm also like, the last couple things I've worked on have been largely installs, and there's a good amount of like carpentry learning through that and everything else. But I'm starting to think like, I don't really know if this is like how I want to be spending my time. Like there's the money making and everything else. Like it's good money. It's good skill building and it's good work. But I don't know. I was watching the Adam Savage building the Hellboy Samaritan prop, and I was just thinking, and this is kind of like everything was happening at once. And I was just thinking, oh my God, the prop building stuff, the special effects, all of that side is like so much more interesting and artistic and creative to me than what I'm currently doing. Sorry, you guys both raised your hands at once. Grant, go ahead. Didn't really work out very well.
Yeah, this.
I'll cut that out.
Yeah, okay. That's a very interesting point, and I wonder if being in the scenery build it like thing will one day open connections to prop building.
Well, here's the thing. And this is why I feel like I can be a little pickier now. It's because back in January, February, I was talking to a prop shop and they wanted to hire me. But they didn't have a project to put me on then, and then COVID hit. So I felt like really cocky, like, oh, I'm just kind of ready to start working for them and try that out once they have an opening for me. And the owner of the scenery shop was very open to that. But it's just since COVID has hit, it's kind of turned the film industry on its head. And then they've pushed their opening date back and back and back.
Right.
I totally agree. I think I'm definitely of the mindset of like, I have a lot to learn at this shop. And the people I'm working with are great. But the fact of the matter is I only have one life. I only have so much time, and there's a lot of
1,000 jobs. Yeah.
There's a lot of really interesting things being done in the film industry. Like you go onto a set and there is the cinematographers, there is the craft services, there's the electricians, there's the riggers, like it's this big team sport. And I'm like on the set and thinking like, the set builders to me is not the most interesting of the group. It's one of the more boring.
Well,
yeah, and like
So 2 questions. What's the difference between a scenery builder and a prop builder? Is it like literally just you building the scene, or you're building like a gun that someone's holding, or?
so the scenery builder, for example, they are building largely rooms on a soundstage. So walls and
Right.
windows, tables, it's large carpentry for the most part. There might be a lot of plexiglass and screens if it's for like a newscast or something, or it might literally be like a house if in the case of Big Brother, which the shop has built the set for. And then a prop builder would build individual props. Some of them also do special effects. So they might create smoke effects, pyrotechnics, fake wind and snow and rain. Actually, it was kind of funny. A couple of days ago, I was biking and they were doing a film shoot around the corner from me with a bunch of fake snow. And I was wondering if it was the boys the next season, but I couldn't tell. It was a huge production though. They had so many trucks and trailers and things going on. So the props is a lot more machining, 3D printing, like painting. There's a lot of painting and scenery as well, but it's scenic painting, which is a much larger scale.
So I feel like prop building would be more of just being in a shop.
Yes.
And scenery, you would actually have to be on
Well,
set.
okay, I can't say yes because I don't really know for sure. I was doing a lot of work in the shop, and then the work that I was getting was more installs. And the work in the shop, I like it a lot more than the installs. It's way more interesting. There's a good amount of like hurry up and waiting in the install. It's just way more fun to work in a shop.
So in like the scenery shop, do you have like carpenters and then people that work with plexiglass? Like, is there people that work with different materials, or does everyone work together? Like, does everyone do everything?
So there's basically in this shop that I've been in, I can't speak to the industry as a whole, but there's kind of like a split. So there's carpenters, and the carpenters work with everything. They work with plywood, MDF, plexiglass, and then there's the scenic,
we do.
Then there's the scenic painters who might paint plywood to look like concrete. But then the painters may also do some carpentry to help out because like it's a small shop. There's like 5-6 people working in there at any given time. So a lot of people have to be like a jack of all trades. Like I was doing some painting back in February as well. You work to the job. Yeah, but it's really interesting. Like that is one thing that is really interesting in the shop is like all the different materials they use for different purposes and optimizing that.
Which is great for what we're going to talk about today because this week's topic is actually we're talking about how we choose what materials we want to use and like not just necessarily like wood versus metal, but like what different woods we use, different species of wood, different metals, like and all that sort of stuff. So I personally prefer wood. Mainly because that's what I grew up using at school. That's what all my tools I've bought for. I find it a lot easier to do. I don't have to be hot and sweaty and like, well, I mean, you are with wood still, but like, don't have to like weld with fire and all that sort of stuff. I just find it a lot easier. I don't have to have a specialty tool to cut a piece of metal, which then like using a grinder, the blade just disappears on you. And, you know, I think also it's I found it's a lot cheaper to work with wood than metal. In saying that, I'm not opposed to working with metal. I just prefer wood.
Right.
Yeah. To quote the hero from Gone in 60 Seconds, wood is warm and lovely. Metal is cold and heartless.
The hero.
But metal
I don't know.
But metal has,
that's probably not what he said, but something like that.
But metal has a great strength to weight ratio, which is one of the reasons that I love working with metal and would like to do it more because you can just build inherently more elegant shapes. Not everything has to be as bulky.
Even just look at like table legs. Half the types of table legs that are made out of metal, you could never make out of wood.
Yeah.
Well, so it's not strength to weight, but it's strength to bulkiness. Because they actually, for the same amount of space, they weigh a lot more, unless it's titanium or
you're right. I guess it would be strength to volume. That would be the correct metric. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like I'm with you, Adam, that most of my stuff is wood, but that's because wood is very forgiving, I find. And only because I've learned how to work with it, but I can know, like, I can fix if I screw the wrong spot or whatever, drill a hole in the wrong spot, I know how to fix that. You know, if I break a board in half, well, I know how to fix it. You know, I also know that, like, with welding, you can fix things that didn't even exist. You can build out of, you know, you can literally fix a corner that's missing with just weld a whole bunch on it, because you're just adding extra metal depending on the type of welding you're doing, whatever. But it's just more what I know.
It's like they say with wood, you can cut more off, but you can't cut more on. But with metal, you can weld more on.
Yeah.
Right. But even once you become a good woodworker, you realize you can put more on, especially depending on the type of woodworking you're doing. If you're going to paint it, you can just keep slapping together things, you know, or if you're really good at woodworking, you can join up wood boards so that you can't even see that they were joined together. So you can put wood back on. I hate that saying. That's only why I went on a little bit of a rant there. That's my G rant of the episode. Because I just basically look at it and go, if you know what you're doing, you can do anything.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I think of any of the materials I work with or want to work with, wood is probably the least interesting and attractive to me, because I see other materials and I'm like, those materials you can do so much more interesting purpose-made things for. Like, I see something you could do with wood. It's like, oh, you can do it in a cooler way with metal, or like to a different effect. Sorry, I just like talked ahead of my brain real quick.
I think a lot of it too is like what we know, like our knowledge. So like, I think because I grew up making with wood, of course that's the material I'm going to choose. If I grew up with someone with me that's a welder and taught me how to weld and stuff, then I'm probably going to be into metalwork.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I work with wood out of necessity, but I would like to grow into a maker that is very proficient in metal, in plastics and other materials as well. I think wood is a fantastic, accessible material. It's a very beautiful material. But there's other materials to me that are a lot more interesting that I really want to gain proficiency with.
I really like how you said it's accessible, because I think that's the big thing about wood is you can literally go to the store, like to any Home Depot, right? Or any big box store and buy wood. Mm-hmm. Whereas stuff like even leather, I don't even know where to get leather. Like maybe Lee Valley sells it because they sell leather working tools, but they'll sell it like 10 times more expensive than it needs to be. So now I got to go find like a local leather supply place, which I'm sure there's one. Like I'm sure there's like a Tandy Leather or something. But it's like I'm going to a specialty store instead of going to the big box store. Maybe Michael's has it too. I don't know.
So it's funny, like on that, Ethan Carter put out his self-watering planter video last week, which like blew up on Reddit, did gangbusters, got like a ton of views. But with that, he got a lot of like really mean, ridiculous comments. And one of them, I think, said something. I was scrolling through his Reddit comments, just like trying to be on his side, being like, oh, all these people are so ridiculous. And one of them was something.
I know the feeling, like, Ethan.
One of them was something to the effect of like, how is this DIY? You need 2 specialty tool sets just for this one project. Like no one leather works. How can you call this DIY? And I was thinking like, well, people do leather work. And if you're in certain parts of the world, let's say if you're in Alberta where there's a lot of horse riding and saddle making and things, then leather working is a lot more common. It's just that commenter where you are from, where you are grow up, leatherworking is not as accessible and widespread as the Home Depot. And that's not a problem with Ethan's project. That is a problem with you not being open-minded enough about what it takes to get into something. Because actually, like, the tool set that Ethan used for that project is incredibly basic in terms of leatherworking materials.
I think a big problem has to do with people and their definition of DIY. And I hate I hate it when people go, "That's not DIY," and I go, "Did you see someone else with me? No, then I did it myself."
Did I do it myself?
Right, that it's a DIY project, right? Like you see other people like pulling out these super expensive like track saws and stuff, and then they go, "Yeah, that is DIY because I can get a track saw at Home Depot, and therefore it's DIY." And you're like, it's just like people like have a broken mindset where, or they don't. It's not like broken. It's more their expectations and your expectations aren't aligned, right?
You know what? You know what the problem is in my mind? The fact that they even care to define what DIY is. Like, why does it matter? It doesn't matter. Like, if it's a cool video, sure, like, we can define it at a very basic level as do it yourself and agree on that. But any definition beyond that is just pure pedantry and just being cynical and annoying, which is a lot of what Reddit is. They're the annoying parts of Reddit.
And the majority of the comments on that video were very positive. Like even the Reddit thread was super positive. There's like people like saying mean things, but when your thing blows up on Reddit, you generally get a couple mean things, and you tend to focus on those because humans are broken and can only think about the negative things.
Yeah.
Well, I think so that kind of brings like leather. You said like wood is the least thing that you enjoy, but you work with leather so much. Do you not feel like at some point that you might be overdoing the leather? Because I think
sure.
like 6 months ago was the last time you made something out of wood.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say like wood is the one I enjoy working with the least. Like I do really enjoy woodworking. And leatherworking is not like the best thing in the world for me. I definitely see it. I don't see my career as a maker being like, I'm going to become a master leather craftsman, and that is the goal I'm going towards. It's kind of, to me, like a tool set that I'm putting into my tool belt. But it's when I see, I mean, I just really would love to develop, machining and milling skills. I've talked about them in the past, but like the things my grandpa could make on his milling machine and on his metal lathe, it's just like, it's so incredible. Just the level of prototyping and making something from nothing, and really durable parts that look finished and they look great. And that's something also that is attractive to me with 3D printing. It's, even though you're making something in plastic, you're making something that is very, very precise. Maybe you could do it with wood, but as we've discussed in the past with my small workshop and lack of large stationary power tools, it's not really as doable as with digital fabrication.
Yeah. You know, you've read the Good Clean Fun, and I'm sure you've seen a few of the interviews with Nick Offerman. He talks about like if someone wants to get into like making in their house or their apartment, he suggests a mini wood lathe. Have you ever thought of that?
Oh, really? I have in the past. Yeah, I've thought about getting a little lathe. I
have two if you want one.
The thought of it in my apartment feels super out of place, and I don't really feel like it's something I need right now. But maybe once I have a little more space and possibly a garage to work in, which actually might be not too far away.
You know, Pat Lapp has a lathe in his. That's cool news, by the way. But
it's not really news. It's just a thing that might happen.
Yeah. Well, so Pat Lapp has one in his closet. In his little,
nice.
Like, I don't know. He lives in an apartment or something. But you can go back and see. Like he's just got the one from Mastercraft, the Canadian Tire brand, in his closet. And he's making cool stuff.
Obviously, I'm not someone that is going to let a lack of space dictate, limit me. Like, I feel like I've demonstrated that at least.
You're not going to have a table saw in your apartment, probably.
No, but I will make things out of wood in my apartment.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a great way to make your apartment very messy.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, like when I think about different materials, the other thing I like to think about is like combining materials. I really enjoy that aspect and thinking about like what's the best material here. Okay, but what else can I do? Like maybe there's something else that might be an interesting, combination, even if it isn't the best, right? Oftentimes, everything is, the best for whatever you're doing. But like, I'll often think, can I throw some, trim in here that's a different thing? Or can I use some plexiglass here where otherwise I was going to use wood? Or, will that add any value or will it take it away? Or do I even care?
Well, it's amazing how much adding another material like really levels up a project and really makes it feel like a professional looking thing. Like for my 3D printer enclosure, for example, using even just plywood and then dyed 2x4s. Those are still both wood, but they're very, very different feeling materials. That for one made it, I think, look much cooler than if it was all just wood of the same tone. And then adding plexiglass sides and doors, I was like, oh my God, this is a real thing.
I agree with that. Is that, say, with the tables that I wanted to make to sell, you've got heaps on YouTube that are like wood with wooden legs and like all fancy. But then you take that same top and add metal legs, it looks so much more like professional.
Yeah.
Professional. Which is crazy because like there's so much more work in the wooden one.
Ooh, Grant, what is that from? Okay, describe to the listeners what you are showing us.
I can't because
I'm a listener now.
Yeah, Adam has quit out of Zoom because his internet is Australian. So I just wanted to show Morley this fun thing. When we're talking about materials, I thought about it and I did this super secret project with Urban Shopworks, and he's up in the Yukon. When I went up there, I stopped by his place and we made some colored pencil. You can actually go on my Instagram and see the colored pencil epoxy combination. And we never ended up finishing that collab because he had to move houses unexpectedly, and he just didn't end up finishing it up. But it's a it's a thing made out of 100 colored pencils. Cool. And epoxy, which is really cool. But thinking about different like materials, that's one of the ones where I went, hey, I actually did something kind of cool. No one in the world but me gets to see it, but but another one that I thought about is like, I like to try and reuse materials. So one of the things I made was a tape dispenser, and I fabricated every piece of it, and I used an old bandsaw blade for the cutter piece. And I thought that was a really cool way of using up these like old like blades that I had no clue what their history was or whether or not they're sharp. Like, the difference between like sharp enough to cut wood and sharp enough to cut wood well is not that big, but you could tell it when you try and use it. And I got 50 blades with my bandsaw, and I was like, I'm not going to use 50 blades, so I just cut one of them up.
When you bought your bandsaw, it came with 50 blades.
Yes, 50. More than 50 blades.
How long does a blade last?
Well, like, I don't know. Other than when you break them,
a crazy amount of blades.
Right. So there was a whole bunch of different sizes, and so it's a wood and metal lathe. So all of a sudden you got like a minimum of 9 blades there because it's wood and metal, right? And then on top of that, you have basically it looked like this person from 1946 onward. If the blade didn't break, it went in this box because that's what it was. I just kept pulling out blades for days. But I kind of look at it when I'm never going to use any of these. I'm just going to buy new blades because I don't know if I can trust them. So I've got 50 blades that are useless. If anyone knows something better to use than the 1.5 inches that I used on this tape dispenser, the other project I've thought up is making like an aluminum foil box that would also, then I get to use up a whole like 12 inches of it. But they're all 93 inches, so it's going to take a while. But
could you make another one if you're folding hacksaw things and use a blade for that?
Maybe if they're sharp.
Well, I feel like when we went camping, the blade that was on your bow saw, it's for one, it seemed to cut in both directions. I guess that's the main thing.
Oh,
yeah, it definitely.
So you can make a push or a pull bow saw.
Yeah,
it might be an interesting project, like just to see if you can do it.
Yeah, Japanese
bow saw.
Yeah.
But anyways, the other thing is I included metal on this because I included metal and epoxy in the. I put in a bunch of BBs into it, and you can watch the video and watch me destroy my table saw blade.
Just to
I remember that.
just to bring things kind of full circle. So I guess working with a lot of different materials I've always found really interesting. Like when I was a little kid, working out my desk in my bedroom, like taking apart pencil sharpeners to build it into something ridiculous that probably wouldn't work. One of the fun things about it was like using a bunch of different materials, that sort of like bricolage mindset. Like you take a bunch of pieces of trash and put it together to make something new. And I've always loved that. And I'm kind of realizing it now as I'm saying it, how that's always been something that has been really interesting to me. And in the scenery shop that I've been working at, there's not really a lot of that. I mean, we're doing a lot. We're building up shapes from a combination of 1x2s, or not really 2x4s, but like 1x2s, 1x3s, 1x4s, lots of plywood, lots of MDF, different types of plywood, everything in painted. And then depending on the project, they have a metal shop as well. There might be some welding and other things. But when I look at the prop industry, like that is a craft that is entirely bricolage. Like look at Adam Savage's prop builds. Like you are taking the most random combination of items just to get that perfect look. And I just, there's so much creativity you can do in trying to create something from materials, not just shapes. You know what I'm saying? Like you can take wood and cut it into any number of objects and then paint it. But what you can also do is take found random objects in different materials and combine them together and get something really interesting.
So have you ever watched the Smuggler's Room?
I haven't. I follow him. I followed him on Instagram for a while, but Bob put out his video with him. I know.
They finally did a collab together.
And I've been wanting to watch it all day, but I haven't gotten a chance yet.
Yeah, so he makes what he calls greeblies, which is like the little knobs and all that sort of stuff on like a panel from Star Wars, for instance. And it's literally made up of like old camera parts, electrical stuff pulled apart, a bottle cap from a piece of like from a juice bottle or a Coke bottle or something. Like it's insane. Like the amount of random materials that go into making something so different looking.
So I watched this guy, Refuse Reuse. He's Tom. Anyways, he's I think in New York.
Refuse.
Refuse. Refuse. Reuse.
Refuse. Reuse.
Well,
yeah,
as in he refuses to throw it away.
Yeah, I thought that at first, but then I've actually heard him say it, and it's definitely refuse, like garbage. Reuse.
Where's he from?
New York, or New Jersey. One of the news. Anyways, he's from the States.
Anyway,
he's from the States, the United States of America. Have you heard of them? Okay. Anyways, that was my random accent. What he puts together from the stuff that he finds in the garbage is amazing, and it makes me not want to throw stuff out. But you only have so much room in your house, right? And I have like broken vacuum cleaners. I have like 15 wheels, like aluminum rims from different cars that I have no clue what I'm going to do with. But one day I might make something. But it's that kind of thing that I just go, I want to put stuff like that together, but my mind doesn't always see it. And I want to like figure out a way so that my mind can see how to put more different materials together.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I mean, it might take...
As I watch Smuggler's Room and I'm like, oh, this would be so cool to do this, but I would not even know where to start.
I mean, it might take just making yourself do a bricolage project. Being like, okay, I'm going to make something out of a bunch of random stuff. Like, I want to make this random thing, and I'm only going to make it out of found objects.
Well, that's what I was hoping for the Mystery Maker collab, that I'd get like a box full of parts. But instead I got a single leather patch, and I went, well, I guess I'll throw that with other stuff, but
You wish you had Austin for your partner, not me.
Yeah, something. Well, if you'd seen what I'd sent like 3 broken scroll saw blades, some hand picked, like handmade nails, like hand forged nails, a whole bunch of different types of wood, some copper, some. I put a whole bunch of stuff all together in a thing, and I sent it off. And I got back on the. I got back a really cool spoon that used up like 1% of the material I sent. But it was a really cool spoon.
So in other words, Morley sent you crap.
No. I sent crap. Morley sent me a really cool patch. I sent a bunch of crap, and I got back the nicest parts of the crap, which was the walnut and the yellow heart. All the rest of the garbage probably got thrown in the garbage. It was just perfect. It's exactly where it needed to go.
So we're coming up on an hour. I think it's time we should move on. But I did just want to quickly ask your opinion. So I'm about to use a new material I've never used before. I don't know if you guys have, but I need to use iron-on melamine. And I don't know if there's anything I need.
So I've done iron on like edge bending before. And the biggest thing that is like when you think it's done, I would go over at least one more time because I had one bit of the iron on edge bending pop off on me. Obviously it's fixable. You just got to put some extra glue.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing is like follow the directions basically and like apply pressure.
Mm-hmm. Do you iron straight? Oh, actually, the instructions probably tell you. But do you iron straight onto it, or do you need to have like a towel or something between?
It depends on the material. So some require a towel. Some say go right on it.
Okay, I'll have a look. Cool. All right. I'm going to mix things up and go to the reviews just to make it confusing. Yeah. So we did get a review this week from Jerry Jenks. I can't remember where he said he left the review, but he also sent it to me through Instagram. So we were talking about this and we were thinking with reviews, if you do make a review and we don't read it out within, say, 2 weeks, just send me a message on Instagram and let me know that you left the review because we may have missed it. And yeah, so this week is from Jerry Jenks. He's from South Australia.
All right, so
Morley's going to have fun with that accent.
I looked up South Australia because I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be difficult. It's a specific region within Australia. But Adam, maybe you can confirm this. From my research, it just sounds like a South Australian accent is like a slightly more British Australian accent.
Yeah, a bit more British and a bit more posh.
Okay, sounds good. So basically, to me, that's how you talk.
Oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Posh Spice was pretty good. I don't know.
The Adelaide accents I heard
I'm not from South Australia, so no.
All right, here goes. So from Jerry Jenks. Fun podcast that takes a similar vein to other maker podcasts, but with hosts from a mix of countries. As a fellow Aussie, I always find myself relating to Adam and his views on woodworking in Australia. It's fun to relate. Always good banter between the boys and an occasional guest. Keep up the good work, fellas. From Jerry Jenks, South Aussie accent. Thanks, Jerry.
That wasn't too bad.
Yeah. Probably sounded almost identical to my first Australian accent.
No, it didn't. Not at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did mention it last week as well. Anyone who leaves a review up until the 31st of October is automatically, and anyone that has already left one is automatically entered into a giveaway that we're doing to, let's be honest, just trying to get more reviews and get our name out there a lot more. But so we're going to have a giveaway. Review has to be in by the 31st of October, and it will be a random out of a hat of who's going to win. So the prize for this giveaway is going to be made by Grant, and it's going to be a custom-made clamp.
Can you believe it? We're going to give away a clamp?
I can't.
Yeah. Did you want to talk a bit more on what the clamp's going to look like, Grant, or do you want it to be a full surprise?
It is going to look like a clamp. It may be a.
Cool.
I haven't designed the entire thing yet. It will definitely have the clamp logo on it.
Ooh.
And that's about it. It's not going to be a spring clamp, like a quick grip clamp. It might be a spring clamp, sorry, but it won't be a quick grip clamp. I can tell you that much because those are not easy to design.
So very fitting to this week's topic. What materials are going to be?
That is a good question. Probably something either metal or elastic, combined with wood.
Ooh.
Depends on how I design it, whether or not it'll have a spring or a screw or an elastic. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm excited.
Very nice.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we're going to thank our Patreons for this week. Anyone who supports us on Patreon gets access to the pre-show most weeks. We do a pre-show, but we always do an after-show. And the F-Clamp level gets a shout-out, and that is Leroy from Big Rock Timberworks. We also have sending out today, maybe?
Yeah,
Morley?
well, it's currently 10:12 p.m. in Toronto, so it's going to be...
Oh, yeah, it is. It's midday for me.
Yeah.
Before
Okay,
this
so say
podcast
tomorrow.
airs,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Before this podcast. Okay, so already have been sent out for all Patreons that support us on any level. Also get a key tag and a sticker.
Yeah.
And
Stickers
we
just
finally
came in
got
today.
stickers. Stickers just came in today. We've got key tags already made up. They'll be sent out before this show even comes out, so don't worry about that. And I think that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
feel like I'm missing something,
any
Well,
other business?
recommendations.
but I'm not.
Clamp mandation?
No, I mean, just for Patreon. I'm just talking about for Patreon.
No, we're good.
I feel like I'm missing something for Patreon, but I think that's everything. Okay. Yeah, so let's move on to this week's Clamp Mandations. Do you want to go first, Morley?
Oh, yeah. So, last night... oh, am I muted? No, I'm not.
No.
Okay. Eden and I,
Professional.
we finished The Boys, season 1 and 2, so we needed a new show to watch.
Me too.
Ooh. All right, let's talk about that later.
Yep.
We needed a new show to watch, so we were looking through Netflix, and someone recently had mentioned Snowpiercer. Not the movie, not the 2013 movie, but the TV show that came out this year. So we watched the first 2 episodes last night, and it was really good. Like, I really liked it. So for anyone that doesn't know, the TV show Snowpiercer is a reboot of the movie that came out a number of years ago. And the premise is there's an environmental catastrophe on Earth, climate change, and then people try to fix climate change by basically freezing the Earth, cooling it down, but it turns the Earth into like an ice ball. And all of the wealthiest people on the world survive by buying tickets onto this train that is like 1,000 cars long and travels around the world endlessly. So it's a very interesting dystopian movie. And on the back of the train are all these people that kind of stowed away. So it's all the kind of people that, not the ultra rich. I'm not going to say anything more than that. I think the premise alone is very interesting, and I think it executes very well on the premise. Jennifer Connelly stars in it. I can't remember the other members of the cast, but
David Diggs, Mickey Sumner, Allison Wright, Ido Goldberg, and a whole bunch of other people.
yeah. Oh, the guy,
Never heard of him.
one guy from Breaking Bad, the guy who plays the grandfather in Breaking Bad, and also one of the characters from GTA 5. I recognized them when we were watching it.
Gran Turismo 5?
Do you...
GTA
No, Grand
5?
Theft Auto.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you recommend people go watch the movie first or just start on the TV series?
I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but the TV series is a reboot, so you don't need to watch the movie before watching the show. It's heavy though. Like, it's really good. It's gripping, but it's heavy. I had some pretty sad dreams last night after watching it.
It's funny. I've seen
Yeah,
it
right.
like up on the recommendations on Netflix a whole bunch of times. It's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I think it originally aired on TNT, but now it's on Netflix.
Okay, I want to. It's like I love post-apocalyptic, like dystopian futures are my like favorite genre of anything. And I didn't like. I think Netflix has gotten really bad at making their trailers because, like, I don't know what it is, but I just watched their trailer and I went, I just don't want to watch this. But I've there's been a few of those but then like everyone's saying you should watch this, you should watch it, and I go and watch it. I go, that was amazing. How did the trailer not get me enticed at all? And maybe it's because they're doing trailers the way I want them to, and it's not including every single good scene.
Yeah,
To ruin it, they're not ruining the thing in the trailer. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
I mean, I think you'd like it, Grant.
Can't always have what you want.
I think it has very good world building. Yeah, check it out. Snowpiercer on Netflix.
I'm gonna
Cool.
after The Boys and after I'm currently watching Sons of Anarchy. So
I love Sons of Anarchy. I've watched it so many times. All right, I'll go next. So they're never going to listen to this, but forgive me for not knowing their names, the two guys that work with John Malecki. But John Malecki recently put out a video making a front desk for one of his friends, and the guy that was actually doing the video came up with this really good trick where, as if you have a crack in a tabletop, put glue across the top and then put a vacuum underneath to suck the glue through.
ooh.
And I can't believe I've never thought of that before because it's such a good trick. And I just, as soon as I saw it, I was like, what? That's so clever, like so smart, because it gets the glue all the way through. You can have a stronger bond. And that is my recommendation for this week, is to use a vacuum to get the glue through.
That is a
Even though it's not my...
cool trick.
Yeah.
Hack Attack.
What about you, Grant?
Well, I don't know. I'm sure by this is aired, everyone has seen it. But Simone Gertz put out a dog photo booth with the cutest dog in the world. Even though I love my dog, but and I think they're even like they're the same breed, so I don't understand how her dog is so much. Obviously, like my dog's fat and overweight, and Scraps is not. I think that plays a lot into why her dog is way cuter than my dog. But the dog, it's a dog photo booth, and she got some great selfies. It's basically a little booth that the dog gets a treat for taking a selfie. And it was in partnership with Lego. So other than the treat dispenser, it's all Lego. And even the treat dispenser, she kind of like remade with some Lego. So I just think that was really cool to see how much you can do with just Lego. Obviously, at the same time, understanding that she got the Lego for free. Like I'm sure it's not a cheap build. I could build it cheaper over plywood for sure, but or MDF or something.
What just a fantastic idea, considering the world we live in, where like animal Instagram pages have hundreds of thousands of followers, and a dog selfie booth. It's like genius.
She is probably one of the most creative people that I follow.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
She also turned a Tesla into a truck.
Yeah.
Like you.
I've had the idea of turning cars into trucks since I first saw an El Camino. And every single car I've ever owned, I said, how can I turn this into a truck? And I've never had enough money to make that thing happen.
So you just bought a convertible, take the back seats out, take the boot off, and you're done.
Yeah. That's exactly. Then you don't have a car anymore.
So I think that got suggested to me, the dog photo booth, and I skipped past it, not realizing it was Simone Gertz. But yeah, that sounds really cool. I went to build a little like jewelry cabinet, like one that sits on top of your dresser, out of Lego, and it was going to cost me like $250 in Lego. I was like, no, it is not worth it. It's insane. Yeah. All right. Thank you to TF Turning also for the theme music that you hear before and after every show, which is amazing. And yeah, do you guys have any other business?
No, sir.
And thank you for listening. That's my other business.
Yes. Ooh. We love you all. All right. Well, you can find me at Maker Mackie everywhere. You can find Grant at the Grant Alexander everywhere, and Morley Kurt at Morley Kurt everywhere.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Do I know where my friends' places are? All right.
All right. Goodbye.
Talk to you next week.
See ya.
See ya.
Was I picking my nose just a little?
Yeah.
Did I?
You were totally picking his nose. I'm like sitting
Oh my
here.
God.
Yeah.
Did
Well,
you
we
get
can't
Oh, you can't see it. Yeah, he's picking his nose.
Yeah.
Nice.
It looked like a Seinfeld.
You were scratching the edge.
I do it for the content.
Yeah.
It was like the Seinfeld. I was scratching.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say nothing when I put that picture up and see if anyone picks up on it.